Anyway, today we have Gemma Leddy at PKF O'Connor Davies interviewing Kirby Rosblock at Tamarind Learning and Luis Didario at Foundation Source. So they're going to talk about philanthropy, technology, and education and family education tech. Just a brief note that the next program is scheduled for the 25th of February. It's a Tuesday. We'll put a link in the chat in a minute. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Phil, the founder of the Lara Krause Family Office Technology Institute. And thank you, Phil, for your collaboration, as always.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for the introduction. This program has been brewing for a long time. I've been talking to Kirby, and I've been talking to Foundation Source, so this is really exciting. But the real star of the program is Gemma Leddy. Gemma is one of our original steering committee members when the Lara Krause Family Office Tax Institute started, and it's really an honor for her to join us today and moderate. Gemma is a partner with PKF O'Connor Davies, a leading U.S. tax and advisory firm. She leads the firm's family office practice, providing a full suite of family office services, including accounting, financial management, tax and advisory services to ultra-high net worth families and family offices. And I've worked with Gemma many times over the years. She's a true professional. So with that, Gemma, I'm turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Phil. I am delighted to be part of this discussion today. And as mentioned, my team and I work closely with families and family offices to provide infrastructure and support to help them manage their wealth, plan for their future, and achieve their goals. And you know, our clients, and I'm sure the people who are working, who are attending today, their clients, and if they're single family offices, they are struggling with a complexity surrounding their assets, their entities, the lifestyle, and their goals. And philanthropy and education are a main focus for all of our clients, practically. So like many of you on the call today, we are looking for solutions in these areas, and I am pleased to have the opportunity to speak with Dr. Kirby Rosblock, the CEO and founder of Tamarind Learning. Tamarind, if you are not familiar, is a premier wealth education platform designed for affluent adult learners, and its curriculum focuses on the technical aspects of owning, inheriting, and stewarding wealth. Just briefly, Kirby, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us more about your background and what brought you to founding Tamarind Learning.
Gemma, it looks like we lost Kirby for a sec. Okay, so why don't we start with Louis? Okay, and
perfect. Lou, great. Lou Didario is the Chief Revenue Officer from Foundation Source, a leading provider of comprehensive support for private foundations. They facilitate all stages of giving and are backed by robust technology, administration, and expertise for donors, nonprofits, professional advisors, and financial institutions. Lou, it's a pleasure to speak to you today. You have been described as a fintech pioneer across the wealth management industry. Can you let us know more about your background, what brought you to Foundation Source, and your current role?
Sure. Thank you, Gemma. It's very nice to be here. Thanks for having me. So I've spent the vast majority of my career in financial technology and wealth management, really building out platforms to make advisors really be able to manage their clients' money more efficiently and really be able to allow their clients to attain the best financial outcomes that they can possibly have. I've worked at various stage firms, so everything from the large financial technology firms that have been owned by large banks to very small startups and private equity-backed firms. So it's great to be here at Foundation Source. This is a great technology. It's a great space, and I'm learning a ton. I've been here at Foundation Source now for almost a year. So learning the business as well as, looking at, different opportunities that we have to really help family offices as well as the entire financial community and really making giving and charitable giving easy for everyone.
That's great. Thank you. So Kirby, I think you're back. You have such extensive experience working with families and family offices, and you literally wrote the book on the complete family office handbook. So can you share with us your background and what inspired you to create Tamarind Learning?
Sure. And I apologize for my little tech glitch there. I'm not sure what happened. So Tamarind Learning was really born out of a client experience and my own experience. I grew up in an affluent, enterprising family. We won't go there. That's a much longer time story. And I came up the financial services side of the world and worked for a decade in a multifamily office, which is kind of what got me to writing the complete family office handbook. But this one client in particular, circa 2016 era, had a very unique situation where it was a blended family. There was a first family and a second family. And to just cut to the chase, the first family was much less prepared for a major transition that was happening. And the second part of the family was JD LLMs and tax professionals and really, really sharp, like Wharton MBAs. So you can imagine if you're the first family and you don't really know that much, you feel like you're getting schooled by your second family. And if you have a lot of shared ownership, how are you supposed to know that you're making the best decisions if they know so much more than you? So as the consultants coming in, we knew that the boardroom wasn't safe. And in order to get them up to speed in a really rapid amount of time, they needed to spend a lot of time learning and mentoring one-off across a very large footprint across multiple time zones was just not feasible to bring them all together one at a time, plus bringing them all together collectively. So that was the impetus to actually build a tech platform, which we did just for that one family. And that was also when we said, this is not scalable, repeatable. We can't do this one-off for every family. But we're like, could we democratize learning and figure out a way to scale this for more families and bring the price down and do it in a way that could actually help the whole industry, right? Not just one family at a time, but like the whole industry, and help advisors, right? Why did they want to build education one-off at a time? So that was the whole idea pre-pandemic, and it actually launched in 2019, right as the pandemic was about to happen. So that was the crazy coincidence.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us more about the original family you worked with. What was it about? What was that about that family? What were their needs? As you know, across the family, there's multiple stakeholders, whether it's the family office executive, trustees, family members, beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a little more background on that family and what you built out and how you approached it?
Sure. So imagine a family that's got tranches of trusts. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of trusts. They have hundreds of operating entities. They have complex ownership of these entities in trust, right? With all these different family member beneficiaries. So we needed to tell them, teach them exactly what is the basics of these kinds of structures. And so this is what we went to task to, is like, before we can teach you to sprint and run, we need to teach you to crawl and walk. And that's where we had to start. We had to teach them the basics. They didn't understand, many of them, how a trust instrument worked. They didn't understand the parties to a trust. I mean, even the transaction attorneys and the real estate attorneys in the family thought they knew a ton, but then we would teach duties of a trustee. So again, we needed to bring all the family onto the same playing field and have them understand what exactly was happening vis-a-vis their complex estate plan and the wealth transfer expectations. And then also have them understand what was going to happen with this transition. So in that bespoke case, we had to build very bespoke education. Today, our platform really helps build the foundation around estate planning, trust, tax, personal finance, corporate finance. We have some on investment statements, how to understand financial statements. Our curriculum is really suited to young adults who are trying to train up to be in board positions, and also beneficiaries who maybe have never understood or even know that they're going to potentially inherit. And so we see a lot of families who are really at the cusp of this wealth transfer event that everyone keeps talking about. and knowing that, gosh, we haven't started doing any real education. Maybe we've done some middle school and high school education, save, spend, give, the piggy banks, and we've done some lemonade stands, and that's great, right? Family meetings and having a lot of fun with some like basic education at that age level is great. But the rubber meets the road when they're out of college and they're trying to get their first mortgage and they're asking, Mom, can I take money out of this trust thing? I don't really know what it is, but I think Grandma and Grandpa set it aside, or maybe you did, or what's this all about? Like, what are we having these family meetings for? How does this impact me really? And so we need to provide them more of a roadmap and education about what some of this family wealth is for and how or if they're supposed to use it and when. So that's where our education can be really instrumental, because we help them know how to ask the right kinds of questions, how to learn up and be responsible owners, and how to engage, right, appropriately with their advisors, their family unit, and, the adults all around, so they can really step up when the time is right.
So your learning management system, more and more there's other, providers out there jumping into the space, but you've been doing this, probably one of the original companies. And what is it about your system that's different from the others in terms of how you approach the learning experience, what resources you provide, and what options there are for the different types of stakeholders of a family who are interested in learning more about different topics affecting the family office?
Sure. So listen, folks can go out there and pick and choose. You can go to Napkin Finance. You can go to Coursera. You can get a lot of free stuff out there. You can go for it. But I'll tell you, it's not tailored. It's not meant for someone who is for the affluent or ultra affluent. And what do I mean by that? Well, we have a whole separate circumstance when you're dealing with someone with a net worth of 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, $1 billion or more, right? So we are talking about circumstances where we don't have the same kinds of issues, and we actually have a different set of circumstances around wealth transfer, around risk management, around protecting and preserving, around aspirations for wealth accumulation and growth and longevity and our time horizons. So we actually need to teach and train our rising gen quite differently than when someone's like, we need to set up a Roth IRA. Well, sure, the wealthy and the affluent should do that too, but that's not the only means of retirement, right? For someone who's at the top 1, 5, or 10% of the pyramid. So there's a lot of things that we feel we tailor to that is very different than the vanilla, basics that are taught and the traditional financial literacy that's out there. And so that's where we curate, right? We really go out there and curate customized learning. We build it ourselves as well. We get permission from a lot of great sources to be able to utilize what we build. And we put it together in a multimodal, meaning we use experiential, we use video, but not only video. We use film. We create animated case studies. And we build it into a technology platform that makes it interactive. You don't like to read? Well, then listen to our stuff. You want to be able to take notes? Well, we built probably the first animated and annotated online notebook. I don't think that exists anywhere. I haven't seen it. And I asked the former CEO of a Kaplan graduate school. So, we've looked at our system technology-wise, and it stands up to the big boys. And we're just a little person. We're David out there in the tech space, right? So we're pretty proud of what we've built. And it's small, right? We're not the giant out there compared, and nowhere near. But that's okay. You don't need to be a giant. You don't need to be in the way our world and the technology space works today if you do really good work and you build really good product.
Amazing. You mentioned advisors, working with advisors, and oftentimes it would be the advisor that recognizes the need to educate the family and will come to you and say, I want to bring the next gen up. We want to give them a background so that they can begin to learn about how to run the family office, and eventually become leaders of that family office. So what is the advisor's role in this process? And, obviously there's a lot of general knowledge you need for the family office enterprise, but how do you make it tailored and customized to the specific family office and their structures? And how does the advisor help in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gemma. I know that many families want their advisors to lead this process, and we don't want to get in the way of that. So I think one of the things we also did very differently is that we actually invite and we welcome the advisor to continue to be that person, to be that trusted source for mentoring, coaching. And if that's what the family wants and that's what the learner wants, great. Come along for this learning journey. And then we also have families who say, you know what, and this might resonate with some of you family office professionals. The family members are like, we don't want our family office people to know what we don't know. Like, they might judge us because we might look stupid. And so they actually might say, hey, can we do this on our own? Or could we hire an outside coach or consultant? And I'm just going to call you out, Natasha, because I'm sure you get these calls, because literally that is what we see. A lot of coaches come to us and they say, hey, I need to use your platform because XYZ family office is really struggling and they've been trying to mentor or they've been trying to help this family learn up, but they've just given up and they've come to XYZ consultant. And then they come to us literally, and we're like, great, let us help you empower that family. And so we are working with consultants and coaches and advisors, right? We also work with RIAs and MFOs and commercial trust companies and professional service firms, because what we can do is that, one, we don't have any sponsorship, we have no advertising, and we don't have anyone's agenda. So all we do is provide pure and simple learning. And then what we also have, which is a little different, is that we have an ability for an advisor, if they want, if it's like through a bank and they want to say, hey, I want to put my quarterly report, we have a document repository. So if they feel comfortable, they can upload their own bespoke, investment guidance from their institution. I have a white paper from our financial services firm. Great. Put it up there. If it's a consultant, hey, I wrote this article in this Trust and Estates, magazine. I want to show it with you. Or if it's their family office, they might say, hey, now you learned about trust. Can we actually go through your trust? And they might put their actual portion of their trust up there and say, let's go through some of these dispositive provisions. I want you to understand really the rules of the road of your trust now that you understand that they're actually these terms, right? These rules, and you had to follow them. The trustee has to follow them, and AKA you, the beneficiary, need to understand what they are because you got to follow them too. So that's where it gets tailored, right? We provide the foundation, and then you have the ability to layer in the bespoke if you want. And that's the power of how this platform can work, is that it doesn't have to feel generic. It can feel very, very tailored. And yeah, we can white label, but that can be a more expensive proposition. And when you white label, certainly you can do a lot more customization.
So just speaking of white labeling, you would be able to support a multifamily office that has multiple clients that wants to bring this, sort of as a larger offering. How would that work? Do you have any situations like that currently?
Yes, we have 3 enterprise engagements where they're not white labels, where we just provide, they've actually chosen not to. And I'm sure for any of you who have worked or working, RIAs, compliance, we have so many good friends in compliance, right? As marketing and education are viewed as the same thing. But yes, we do have a white label, actually a couple white label instances where professional service firms who don't have the same compliance regs can get away with and can deal with that, right? So in those instances, you actually have your own unique instance of Tamarind Learning. We can, upload your brand colors, your logo. It will look like your firm, You will never know. It looks like Tamarind. In fact, it can be an API directly into your portal. And I would just say that, even for tech platforms like Foundation Source or other tech platforms, reporting platforms, or if you are a family office with your own portal, we can actually plug right into your portal. We can build an API. So that's where, we actually can be fairly flexible. And this is, again, the beauty of being a small technology firm. We can do a lot of things that sometimes the bigger firms will say, no, we won't do that. It's not, we don't operate within that mandate. So, we like to walk before we run, and we don't actually suggest white labeling as the first approach for many firms, because we want to make our partners successful. And let's just be honest, culture is a big deterrent towards tech integrations. And having done this with other firms that I've worked at, I'm very mindful that I want to set my clients up for success. So I will deter you away from using us if I don't think your advisors will use us appropriately. And I really feel like it's in our best interest only to take on white label situations where I know the advisor community will adopt us and the clients will be, really wanting to leverage us successfully.
Wonderful. When we spoke, you had mentioned that as part of the learning experience, you weave in sort of real life situations to help enrich, the learning process. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. I love theory, but it's so annoying to me a lot of the times because it doesn't help the people that are out there living it day to day. And I'll give you a great example. I take a lot of the work I've done, anonymize it, make it very distant from any client ever knowing it's their story. And I will bring it in and build it into mini scenarios or mini case studies. And I'll even give an example from our tax lesson. We had a scenario where an individual, so we built this out into a pretty awesome animated case study to demonstrate how tax shouldn't be an afterthought with a young person making a job decision. And we take them down this whole experience. I won't give it away, so those of you who get to our tax lesson aren't disappointed, but it's designed to help a young person see that, when you're considering a big job change, especially when it means moving to a tax jurisdiction like lovely New York City and possibly taking a full-time employment opportunity versus a contractor opportunity, and like the scale of pay is very different versus staying in a state like Florida or Nevada or Alaska where there's no income tax. You really need to understand the pros and cons of what that might look like if the contractor pay is significantly more or less than what your pay might be in a higher tax jurisdiction. So using like real life scenarios to really help the learner see that, oh, I actually need to think about what the tax consequences are before I just accept what I think is the better offer, the sexier offer, because I like that location better. And so those are the kinds of situations where we bring in, family office cases, and we actually bring stuff from the current, what's public record. So we'll pull out stuff that's public record and publicly available data so that people actually, hear the stories that are out there and they're like, ooh, I don't want to be sort of facing those kinds of issues that family had to deal with. Because we think it's important to, bring out what people want to know. They want to know, like, what could happen if I have to sue a family member trustee? Yikes. That's not fun. That's not fun. Don't repeat that kind of issue. That's not going to do bode well for your family. So we do bring out a lot of good, real stories, real true life stories. And that's actually part of the reason we're getting a lot of uptick for advisors wanting to use our learning as well. Even for training younger advisors.
And you have a wealth stewardship program. Can you give us a little more information on how that works?
Yeah. So if anyone is curious and they're like, I don't know about this Tamarind thing, but I would be brave enough to try it. We do have a free course on stewardship. It's intended to be the first step of our 10 courses, which you can try it out. There's a free enrollment, and there's a link, I think, that might be shared during this session that you can try it out if you want. If not, you can go to our website, and there's a link in the toggle bar that you can just jump in and enroll for free and try it out. And that will give you a sense of what does the platform look like? How does it sort of operate? And you'll see that we have embedded podcasts and all kinds of multimodal learning. And then I would just call out that if you want to learn more, we have so many free resources on our site, between our free newsletter that goes out monthly, our free podcast library that has wonderful family office leaders that are showcased and experts across the space. And we just have wonderful free assessments that are also really helpful. We're about to release our 2025 book list, which is also a great resource as well. So reach out to us, because there's just a lot of free information, even if you don't decide to use our system. But there's just there's a lot of things happening. And we did release a family office fundamentals course for those who said they were more curious about the family office space. I would say tremendous amount of research and resources there as well. And in 2025, we'll be releasing more on family governance. So those of you who are interested in that might be another thing to keep your eyes out for. And then last thing I would say is just on the family office front, we'll be also releasing a subscription model, because we've heard from a lot of family offices, they would like to use it almost more like their dedicated learning portal. And if you're curious about that, you won't see it on our website. So you'll just have to contact me if you want to know more about that.
Fantastic. Just one more question for you, Kirby. From the time you started working with these families and providing them with this platform, what is what happens as a result of that? Is there a change in the dynamic with the family, how they approach decision making? And I'm sure it would empower the learner to be more involved and have a bigger voice. Do you have any insights on that?
Well, I think there's a kind of like a shift in terms of how they show up and how they feel prepared. Their competence leads to confidence, right? So all of a sudden, where they didn't feel like necessarily they had the ability to sit in the seat at the table, they feel like they want to sit in the seat at the table, and they want to lean in to conversations where maybe they sat back and they were like, I don't know if I feel right about even voicing an opinion or having an opinion, because I don't feel like I know enough to say anything. Now they feel like I know I've confirmed what I know. So even though I had that idea of something I wanted to share, I'm backed up by this knowledge. And now I feel like my voice matters. And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes gets missed, is that they don't feel like there's something to substantiate how their education now substantiates their voice. And that's really a powerful shift. And I would also say, gosh, if you only have one learner in your family and they're like, I won't do this, I'm not motivated enough, I'm going to throw out another suggestion that In 3 Generations is another firm that does peer learning. So, think about reaching out to Kristen Heaney and Celine Fitzgerald. They're another great group that will do peer learning. And I have to tell you, social pressure works. I'm telling you, the young adults really glean a lot from being in a community with others. And that's another powerful way to jumpstart. If you only say have one young adult who's like, I would just really like to be with somebody else my age and not be on an island going through this. So that's another way they've leveraged our learning and done it into a coaching peer group. And that's been really, really successful as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's now turn our attention to Foundation Source. Lou, can you give us, I think many of us know about Foundation Source, but not everybody's as familiar with the core offering, where you are in your technology at this point, and what are you focusing on?
Sure. So, yes, Foundation Source, it was established, around 25 years ago. And really the idea was to serve, individuals, advisors, family offices that were looking to start private foundations. And that today, that business still remains one of our core businesses. But, over the years, the business has changed a bit. Today we're specialists in private foundations, donor advised funds, charitable trusts, and, other plan giving programs. So we've really turned the business into really being able to service all of the charitable instruments versus just that one, focus on just private foundations. We service over 4,000 charitable organizations, around 2,200 private foundations, 150 financial institutions. So we have a really good baseline with our client base for what they need, where issues are. So it really allows us to build out the technology to really meet those needs. Like any business, we want to make it more tech enabled and tech forward without adding tons and tons of staff. So it really benefits our clients because the ones that are using us in a technology fashion, they get the benefit of what we've built to service all of the foundations that we service today.
Yeah, that incredible. I mean, I have a couple of clients using Foundation Source, and it's so integrated in so many areas. Can you give us more, information on what those areas cover, whether it's grant management, accounting, compliance? Can you just shed a little light on those different areas that you're providing or support and resources for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we provide, everything from setting up a foundation all the way through doing the taxes, as well as charity research, all of the compliance that they need on the back end, as well as the full technology suite that comes along with it. So when you look at us, think of us really as we jokingly say we're like the QuickBooks for foundations. We really do cover all of the back end operational components of it, and that can be offered from a technology standpoint all the way through us offering all of the services that go around it. So it really is a full solution that the family and the office can use. We do expense management, grant management. So the technology really, really has a ton of flexibility in what it can offer. We give dashboards. So when you look at the technology, there's a full dashboard that not only the family or the individuals working on the foundation can use, but we have a dashboard where if you're managing multiple foundations or the family has multiple foundations, they can see across all of the foundations that they have. And if you're a multifamily office, we can separate that by each family and then all of the foundations that are associated with them. We have a contact management platform that is built within it. So being able to store, all the contacts for charities, have really easy access to either grantees or people that are affiliated with the foundation. Then you could also look at it for, what has the impact been, impact reporting, as well as planning.
Incredible. You mentioned it's a platform for a multifamily office. And can you give us some examples of your clients that are using it in that fashion? How many clients sign up for it? How do you charge them? Is there a different service that you provide? And how do you scale this across families?
No, that's a great question. So yeah, over the last 12 to 18 months, we've been scaling out the platform and building out the infrastructure underneath to allow it to work not only in an individual foundation fashion, but being able to have either multifamily offices as well as banks, large financial institutions, be able to utilize our technology so that they can manage all of the foundations under one single platform. So not really having to log in to each foundation to take actions, but really be able to manage all of the foundations really in bulk, if you will. So what we've done is we've built out that infrastructure. We built out the hierarchy. So if you think of, at its largest scale, you look at a Bank of America and all of the advisors and trust officers that they have. So we've really built out a pyramid in the user hierarchy. That is we'll call it a home office or the family office. And then you have, we'll say, each family, and then all of the foundations and so on and so forth that go underneath. And really, by building out that hierarchy, it allowed us to build out the dashboards and the reporting mechanisms either on an individual foundation or in aggregate.
Wow. So, I've always understood that you are a combination of a technology solution with services, but it sounds like you now offer just the platform if a family office or a multifamily office wants to just use the technology platform and not use the services. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah. So, we work with our clients in a number of ways, and we really build, I would say, I don't want to say fully customizable solutions. We tend to keep them, or they tend to fall within certain boxes. But yes, we can offer everything from just a technology suite, which again is basically allowing our clients to utilize the platform the same way that we manage our foundations, or really be an extension of the family office in them being able to pick the different services that they might not have the expertise to handle in-house. So for example, if they don't necessarily want to take on the tax work, we can certainly do that. Or if they don't have philanthropic expertise, we have a philanthropic consulting group and an advisory team. So we can really pick and choose and make it very a la carte on what services we want to wrap around it. But by and large, even as just a technology client, there are a lot of services that you're getting with it, such as the charity research. We are doing charity research on a daily basis to make sure that they are still compliant with the IRS. We're hitting the IRS database multiple times a day. That way, when they go to put in a grant, we make sure that that is an approved charity and is still in good standing.
And speaking of compliance, it's such a big part of foundations. How does the platform support the compliance needs of the foundation?
Yeah, compliance is a tricky one in this space, as I've learned. Opening up a foundation should be a highly rewarding experience. And what most don't realize is that, with a private foundation comes a ton of flexibility and endless giving options, but not really being able to understand or not having the expertise in understanding what are the pitfalls of potentially doing something really puts a lot of those assets at risk. So we have a team of attorneys as well as philanthropic experts that really work with the family and the family offices and their advisors to really make sure that as they're doing things, we're making sure that we are keeping them out of trouble. One of our primary business drivers is always to mitigate risk for our clients and make them know that, this is something that could potentially be an issue. So we'll work with their attorneys, we'll work with their CPAs if they have them, and we'll make sure that we come to a solution that works well for them, lets them achieve what they're looking to do, but yet make sure that the foundation's not getting themselves in any trouble.
Great. We actually have a question. Foundation Source just purchased the tech company Charity Vest for donor advised funds. How are you integrating their work?
That is a great question. So, as everyone knows, donor advised funds, private foundations, charitable trusts, they are all excellent vehicles for philanthropy and charitable giving. Each one has a different purpose. And it's really what acquiring Charity Vest allowed us to do is to now round out the solution set that we can give to our clients. So rather than having clients be able to, or rather than having a client have to go to a Schwab or a Fidelity Charitable or Vanguard or somewhere else This really allowed us to have all the solutions under one roof. It also allows us the ability to have the family office or their advisor create custom models to be able to run the money the same way they do on the private foundation. So their investment strategies can be aligned in the donor advised fund as well as the foundation. And it really allows them to have what we call a sidecar DAF, which is basically a donor advised fund that's operating in conjunction with the private foundation without having to go outside of our four walls. So it really gives them a lot of flexibility. Having both vehicles also gives them some extra tax benefits. So, that was really why we did it. Over the next couple of months, we are integrating the platforms to where there will be single sign-on. So if you're in Foundation Source, you can click a button, you can go into the donor advised fund platform. And we're also building out our dashboards so that you can see your donor advised funds and your private foundations all in one place.
That's fantastic. As many of our families, they have a multiple vehicles for philanthropy. So having the ability to see everything in one place is really, really helpful. Just back to the DAF program, what is involved with setting it up, and how long does it take?
Sure. So we have a couple of different options. CharityVest/Venfi, which is the technology platform behind it, really is a state-of-the-art platform. It is the newest donor advised fund platform on the market. Others, Ren, there's Blackbaud, there's others, but this one is built within the last 5 years, all modern technology, highly flexible. More importantly, the way it was built was really to take all of the friction out of opening up a donor advised fund. So you can go on as an individual and open up a donor advised fund in less than 5 minutes. The account's opened, you can fund it, you can even start giving. We have what we call white labeled programs, which really is tailored to either multifamily offices or RIAs, broker dealers, and large trust companies. So if we're doing a white label donor advised fund program, typically we can have that up and running in a few days. It's really a matter of us branding it, getting the investment strategies into the platform so that those donor advised fund platforms can be really custom invested.
Wow. That's amazing. How many instances do you have now, or is this is a new endeavor?
No, we have around 12 what I'll call white labeled donor advised fund platforms that are in operation today.
Fantastic. Just basically, a family thinking about working with Foundation Source, how would they start to explore a philanthropic offering, and how would they decide what kind of support they need working with you and customizing the resources that you provide?
Yeah, and similarly to Kirby's business, we tend to work mostly with the advisors, just because most of the families want their advisor involved in some way. A lot of times it's their attorneys or potentially their CPAs, but typically we are working in conjunction with the family as well as their advisors. But with the families that we work with directly, they typically come to us and they really want a fully outsourced solution. Many times they don't realize what the different structures of foundations are. So as far as being able to have, a full board or being able to have, one person really in control, we can really help and point them in the directions that they need to go. And then we really work with them on what their goals are, and we try to point them. We can really play as much of a role in the foundation. We have foundations where we actually sit on the board as well. So we really can be very much hands-on. And as they start bringing folks in, such as maybe their CPA, we can start peeling things off. But when we're dealing directly with a family, we tend to start with a fully outsourced type solution.
In terms of an existing foundation that just wants to use your platform, what is the onboarding process? How long does it take? What support do you provide in that transition?
Sure. With the existing foundations, we've really come up with we have a great team that really gets them on board. Typically, to get them fully on board, it takes somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how much historical information we're porting over. That's where a lot of the work comes in. But yes, we have a team that works with them on what charities they like to give to, how much history and what documentation they want in there. Getting that all set up on the platform, getting them trained on the platform on how to use the grant research capabilities, how to look through the expenses, how to look at where the minimum distribution requirements and that information is being stored so that they can look and make sure that as they're going through the year that they're meeting those requirements. We're also building out business intelligence or AI into the platform. So the platform is becoming more proactive. So really surfacing information to either the advisor or the family member or the board of the charity saying, hey, we're in November and you haven't met your minimum distribution requirement yet. Or, looking at anomalies in potentially some of the transactions or expenses that have come through. So we're building a lot of that in so that the users don't necessarily have to go into the platform to look for things, but it's really surfacing those high touch items right out in front.
That's wonderful. Just in terms of strategic partnerships, we had talked previously about that's an initiative of yours to build them out throughout the family office industry. Can you give us more information on how you plan to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we realize that we can't be everything to everyone. We want to really stick to our core businesses, which is the charitable giving instruments and platforms. So what we want to do is really build out a great partnership network so that either family offices, advisors, RIAs, banks, whatever it may be, they can really come to us as that one-stop shop for all of their philanthropic needs. So we're going to start looking at, platforms like Kirby's so that education piece is built right in. And then we are looking at other things like Anonymous so that they can add more philanthropic consulting services around the ones that we offer, as well as impact investing. So it's really about being able to have our clients come to us to be able to find all of the pieces that they need versus us trying to build and support every single area of the food chain.
And, every family office has some resources in different areas. So if, they're coming to you with a resource, is it possible to connect that? So for example, if they're working with a charitable advisor, can they use the platform as well as part of their servicing of that common client?
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as they give that individual the permission and what information they want them to have access to, we have pretty fine-grained user access control and what people can see. So as long as they give us the permission to let them access the platform on their behalf, then we can certainly do that.
Wonderful. Just in terms of 2025 and beyond, is there any areas that you want to touch on what your plans are, whether it's AI or other initiatives that you're working on that you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are a very, I would say, progressive technology firm. We are backed by a private equity firm that, fortunately for us, is investing a lot of capital into the technology. So, first and foremost, what we want to do is really integrate all of the pieces that we have acquired over the last year. So, as you may know, we acquired PG Calc on the planned giving side, and now the donor advised fund platform, as well as we already have the private foundation and charitable trust business. We really want to first integrate all of those onto one user interface so that everyone can see everything across the board. So it's really that one view into all of the charitable giving instruments that a family would have. We're also, as I said just before, we're building business intelligence and artificial intelligence into those dashboards to make the platform much more proactive in what it's giving our clients. So that is another area that we're looking to really dig deep into. And then we're also looking at different options as far as, we have what we call the grant hub, which is really for people who are looking for donations. So we have a scholarship platform as well. So we're really looking to build that out in a bit more robust way, so that can then really help on both sides. So we're really putting a ton of money into the platform, but most of it will be around centralizing views and making it more proactive.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to bring it back to Kirby real quick. If there's anything else you want to add about your platform and how you help families learn and become more educated.
Are you asking me or are you asking Lou about how his platform?
I was asking you.
Oh, well, I was just so enthralled with Lou's presentation because honestly, I'm such a fan. I have to say Foundation Source is the leader on the foundation management side. It has literally been the first entrant on that tech side. And I've been a follower since early days. That we were talking, Lou and I were talking when we first jumped on. So I can't say enough about how many families I've seen use it and how efficient and effective it is. So from being early days in my career, it's just been fascinating and fun to see how it's grown and how many happy clients I've seen use it. So on the education side, I mean, I just hope that we can find ways to support more families out there. There's such a need. I want to bring one quick statistic to the light. We did a little bit of research at the end of last year, reaching out to families, asking, there's a JP Morgan study out there saying, how many families have education as a top 3 priority? Because that was a study question that they had asked last year. And how many had education as a top 3 priority going into 2025? And of course, we're a little bit biased because we're asking a whole bunch of family offices that we're connected to, but every single one, there wasn't one that didn't say education was in their top 3. So we know that this is weighing on a lot of people's minds. So let us at least help you think about how to figure it out. And if it's not using our tech, at least we can help you find consultants, find great advisors, find other resources. But we really hope you'll at least take a look at what we have. And we're also going to be offering a special little discount for you to just try out a course. So if any of you want to go beyond stewardship, that free course, we're going to give a special coupon. So for any of you who listen to this webinar today, FOT25 will be the code, and that will give you a discount to try a course, even further discounted for just joining today and listening to this presentation. Thanks to the Larry Krause Family Office Technology Institute, and thanks to Adriana and to Phil and everybody in the team for having us on. But thank you again, Gemma. This was such a treat.
No, this has been my pleasure. And just, if anybody has any questions they want to throw out for Lou or Kirby, feel free. We have a couple more minutes. It's been really interesting, and to really dive into both of your companies. I am familiar, more familiar with Foundation Source, and really am amazed at the advances you're making, can continue to make, and certainly Tamarind Learning. Kirby, I think you have something very special, and I think many of our families will avail themselves of your wonderful platform and your experience. So I don't see any more questions, but I want to thank everybody for participating, and this has been a pleasure. And Phil, I'm going to turn it back to you. Oh, wait, we have another comment here. This is in philanthropy. There are a few national groups that do education for family foundations, some in person, many now online, and CFP and Exponent Philanthropy and Center for High Impact Philanthropy. at UPenn are part of that as well, and the National Center for Family Philanthropy. Thank you, Eileen. That's very helpful. Great. Well, thank you, Phil. I'm going to turn it back to you.
Sure, Adriana, if you have anything to add, and then I'll close it. Okay.
I think from our end we're good. I want to thank you everyone for the attention and for the questions. And we put the little code that Kirby was sharing in the chat as well, and we will follow up in an email as well. We will follow up with the recording and the code. So that's it from me. Back to you, Phil.
So Gemma, I thank you so much for a great moderation, and Kirby and Lewis, fabulous, really one of our best programs. And I know there's going to be a lot of interest and follow-up. So thank you very much. Next program is on February 25th, and you'll see details on that. And everyone have a great day. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Everybody, thank you.